Okay, it's in. Jim's here.
Jim is here.
Is Jim there?
Yeah.
Are you here, Jim?
I'm here.
It's like a seance.
He's real.
Hooray.
Hello, everybody. It's Ethan McKinley, and welcome to the 2-Minute Terminator, where we break down the Terminator films 2 minutes at a time. Oh, the other female voice on the other end of the line is Ellie Fitzgerald, my co-host.
The other female?
It's because you're sitting next to me, but you're in my ear, so it sounds like you're calling in. Someone who is actually calling in is Jim O'Kane, the presenter, the progenitor, the producer of the Airport Minute, based obviously on the 1970s disaster movie that spawned a franchise. I guess it's the first, you could argue it's the first sequelized franchise, couldn't you, Jim?
I would think. I mean, it depends on how far back you go, but I think that's the only one that's actually had something with something else in front of it, usually a year. So it's good, and I don't know how far. We've only started on the first movie, but hopefully we can catch up with the way you guys are going, which is gangbusters, really.
We've been going a year and a half.
Terminator, there's a lot of films.
Yeah,
there's a lot of films, and they're not all good films, are they?
I have been dragged kicking and screaming a few times. I'm like, Ethan, I just want to go out and enjoy myself. No!
Call in! Yes, everyone, you are here with Ethan and Ellie doing an all-star week with the amazing minute shows, starting with, last but not least, the first but the greatest, who knows, Airport Minute. Jim, as you're the first guest in this week, we're going to allow you to say, hit the music.
Yes, please hit the music.
Yeah, I think this guy's a couple cans short of a six-pack.
Howdy, stranger.
Don't say howdy, stranger, to me.
Load up.
You didn't do the fourth. Thank God. It sucked.
Okay, we're back. Yes, we are here. It's Terminator Genesis. We are in now season 5. It's episode 3, if I've done my maths correctly. And Jim, of course, is with us from the Airport Minute. Tell us a little bit about your show, Jim, because as we said before the credits rolled, Airport Minute is, of course, I think it's the first franchise, really. Like, even going back, I mean, there were, disaster films, and there was... a bunch of other adventure movies. There was The Victor Mature when he was waving a stick at a lizard and stuff. Did they make more of those? Journey to the Center of the Earth and things. But the first American, looking back at it now in the climate we are in cinematically with franchises, I think this was kind of one of the first ones, or could be the first one. It was disaster movies, not superhero movies, but yeah.
I mean, I think unless you're counting the endless remakes of A Night to Remember, I mean, that seems to be the same disaster that people kept living over and over. I mean, right up to the Kate Winslet days. But
exactly, yeah. Cameron's thing to bring it to Terminator. But yeah, what is it about these movies that switched you into doing a minute podcast?
It is a rather old movie. It's from 1970, and I'm a rather old presenter. So it was a movie that I'd watched for years as a kid growing up on TV. It was on about every Saturday or Sunday every few months, and it was in the days before VCR, so you couldn't really stop it or look at what was going on in the action. And as time and technology went on, you could sit down and go, that was odd. And finding out about the movies by minutes phenomenon that's happening everywhere. Thank you, Star Wars Minute, for kicking all this off. But the idea of sitting down and taking apart 1 minute at a time, that movie, which has so many, every star you can think of from that era that was either at the top of their game or probably more like 10 or 20 years behind their game. Their peak had gone. It's like watching Love Boat, or even Love Boat and Fantasy Island. Those shows came from this kind of an all-star disaster film. So. Yeah, because you've got, to a lesser degree, I think you've got the Cannonball Run, which kind of not did a disaster fauna, but they kind of got, a then drunk Dean Martin. Yeah, who also stars in our movie in Airport. So he's
with gin blossoms. I don't know. I get a sense of Dean Martin. He was it was less just about the hang and drinking and probably. You mentioned in the last episode, off to golf. Really, it's slightly disinterested, but kind of involved, like he was in. Cannonball Run.
Yeah, he was famous for not being a part of the show. I mean, he wasn't exactly part of the craft. And what he did was he would only he had a TV show going concurrently while he was filming the movie Airport called, imaginatively enough, the Dean Martin Show. But he would only be filming the show. He had hosts of guests and dancers and all kinds of things. He would only show up Sunday afternoons. He'd never rehearse. He would never memorize his lines. They'd write them on gigantic cue cards, any kind of lines that he said. He'd do the whole show in one take. If he blew the take, they left it in the show. It's like, I didn't say that right. Let's keep going.
Yeah.
So, but he was such a box office legend there. He had just finished the Matt Helm, the spy spoof series, the Bond-like series. So he was a good moneymaker, and they figured, well, if Dean's happy, we're happy because, we're rolling in cash. It's great, and it's great watching him in this movie because anytime he has more than, say, one or two words to say, you can see him looking off screen and reading some giant cue card that a prop guy's
I was
holding.
going to say, did you do the Brando thing like in Superman where he's reading off camera? You can kind of notice when he's like, I think my son's going to go to Earth and save the planet, as he's was lisping with his Brando drawl, reading his cue cards.
Exactly. The lines, the eye lines never match up in the movie, and it's just, I think it could almost be a drinking game, which would be okay with Dean Martin, just to watch how many times he's reading off of giant cards.
Is this what led you to become an aerospace engineer? Because that's what you mentioned earlier in the message we sent, didn't we?
Well, I worked in the aerospace business. I was actually in IT, and actually I worked for British Aerospace for many years, and I worked in the UK all over the UK. So that kind of
you poor bugger.
Oh gosh, no, it was loads of laughs. I worked in Surrey and up in Manchester.
In Surrey, that's where I'm from.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, if you know where Kingston is, I used to work right there by.
I lived in Kingston until I was 12, and that's where I was born. So yes, I know Kingston very well.
Oh,
So you're obviously. Do you remember?
I've shopped at Benton's many times. Yes.
Bentles. Oh my god, did you ever go there at Christmas where they have the fuck off huge
yes.
Christmas tree right in the middle with the mechanical fairies and like
yes. See,
the weird old man that would sit at the bottom with a huge stomach, and you're like, that
wasn't me.
Welcome to Benton's
Do not
Minute.
sit on that man's lap. Jim, I have a question for you.
Sure.
As you're watching this film and you're breaking it down minute by minute, has it kind of taken away any of the pleasure from the film?
Actually, in any case, I've been more interested in what's going on. I mean, there's things I've never noticed, even up to the point where I sit down and look at the minute and go, "Where did that come from?" And then
Burt Lancaster's in this?
Yeah, go figure.
Or episode 20, you're like, oh fuck.
Yeah, people come up with theories that they come on the show and start talking about these theories. I'm like, I never thought of that. How could that be? The latest one that we've been talking about is Burt Lancaster was in a movie called The Swimmer, which is it's an odd cult film, and the movie is about a guy who. He seems like he has a great life. He lives in Connecticut. He has all these rich friends and stuff. And he realizes he's at a pool party, and he realizes that there's a string of pools that runs across the county that he could swim from the party that he's at and swim all the way home. And as he goes, you suddenly find out that he doesn't have a good life. His wife is divorced. He's lost his job. His kids have run away, and he gets back to his house, and his family, his job, everything that he loves is gone, and someone pointed out this could be the sequel to Airport, and what happens to Burt Lancaster's character. It's like, whoa, I never thought of that. So, and we wind up in these
The Swimmer.
these weird tangents. We're not doing the Swimmer Minute, though. I can tell you that.
You might finish the airports and go on to that.
No, I have to agree actually, because there's quite a few things that I found. Not so much with the earlier films, because I grew up watching Terminator and Terminator 2. Absolutely loved those, although I think those 2 seasons I probably talked more about my personal life and my sex life than I actually did about Terminator. But say with like 3 and 4,
it took a while for you to kind of get into the minute format I was trying to
I've never done this before. Ethan was just like, oh, let's do a podcast. I was like, okay. At first I literally had no idea.
Yeah, I think we're the redheaded stepchild of the minutes, I think.
Well, you're doing a bang-up job, I have to tell you. It's
I think because we didn't seek the counsel of others that do the minute shows, Star Wars Minute, obviously the progenitor of this, and we got their blessing, but then I just went barreling into it without actually... I think the first season we kind of did it right, and then we kind of lost track of things. I think because Terminator 2 is so good, you kind of like... There was nothing to critique or take apart with it, so to speak, but I don't know.
Whereas 3 and 4, my God.
But here we are, Season 5, Terminator Genesis. What's your history with the Terminator films, Jim?
I went to the premiere when it first came out. I loved Schwarzenegger back in the Conan movies, and I thought, well, this has got to be okay. And it seemed low budget. I was a film major at the time. Went to the University of Texas, and I thought I was going to be a big filmmaker when I got out. Then I found out how much it paid, so I went to something else. So, but I enjoyed Schwarzenegger, and he always had a great knack for picking scripts that had humor in it, and I thought that the humor of both Terminator and then later on Terminator 2, they were fantastic. You know, it gave you a lot of action. It was like a roller coaster ride. You sat down and you just hung on and screamed and you laughed about the whole thing when it was done. But like 3 and 4, they missed the point as to what's so good about the Terminator movies, and it's that blend of comedy and action. And I think in this current one that we're talking about here, they finally found their mark. Maybe it was just because they missed, having real Arnold in it, but it really picks up where the 1 and 2 had gone.
Yeah, well, we said that it's a bit like the Highlander series in a sense that the films there's one classic film to start it. Terminator obviously is like Aliens. It's arguably better or as good as the first one. People fight constantly on like movie blogs about those films, but like Highlander, different people came together to make the films and do their version, and it's like a patchy series. That's what we found kind of going through them. But yeah, I mean, you very kindly actually watched the entire Terminator Genesis. Was it yesterday or today? So thank you for doing that.
I hadn't seen it because I had been
I thought it would have been funny you not seeing it, just trying to like fumble your way through the dark on a 2-minute clip.
Sure, I saw that guy from that thing. He was wonderful in it. Yeah, but yeah, I think I had gotten an on demand, like a free on demand for the previous movie, and I sat through about 20 minutes of it, and just Christian Bale was not the right choice.
Oh, he's the worst. He's so bad. So bad.
Oh, this was like the one where they had Batgirl on the Batman movie. That was a Schwarzenegger movie too, and it was like you watch it and like these people don't understand what the movie.
He doesn't do good fourth movies.
Yeah.
Technically he's not in the fourth one. He's a CGI version, but
this one just spot on. It really they understand the characters and they understand what the audience wants out of the show. You want to get you want to get dunked in the mud, and then you want to get pulled out and find out, oh, he's still alive. We can still do this, and that keeps going. And that's what's enjoyable about these kind of films. And thank you for asking me, because I probably never would have watched this movie because I was so disappointed in the previous one.
I think with this, I mean, James Cameron gave this his kind of like blessing. I think the thing he talks about when he says what's good about this film, though, is they kind of, a bit like Back to the Future 2, to make a nod to our future guest, Back to the Future Minute. In the second one, they obviously return to the first movie from a slightly different angle, where Marty goes back and watches himself in Back to the Future 1. A bit like, when you've got this, they kind of remake the first movie, don't they, Ellie?
Well, the beginning.
Yeah.
No, agreed.
With Jai Courtney, sadly, he was doesn't have the quite charisma or the chops.
Kyle Reese. He's too bulky. He's too big.
In a post-apocalyptic future where you're eating rats and things, I guess you wouldn't be this buff, would you?
Where's Gold's Gym in that timeline?
What I always wondered about in this movie, and some of the other movies too, where are the hairstylists in this thing? Because these guys are always perfectly coiffed.
Yeah, that's really true.
And especially in this particular minute, if you look at Connor, he's got those massive scars, yet he still gets that bone close shave on everyone. He doesn't even have a 5 o'clock shadow. I mean, that is just crisp.
Who is your what's the name of a barber? No, it's not a barber. They cut your hair. Yeah,
or a hair, like a stylist or something. He's full of product. He looks like he just stepped out of a salon.
No, I thought, what is it? Clash of the Titans, when the previous Jai Courtney that they foisted upon us, Sam Worthington of Avatar, he had this perfect crew cut and was clean shaven in like ancient Greece. He was playing Perseus.
Well, so did Harry Hamlin. I mean, he was always spotless. So even the remake, they're just following with tradition.
He was dreamy though.
Yeah.
But that's where I think Michael Biehn did such a better job, because he was kind of rough around the edges. He was you could see he had some muscle, but he was very lean. It was just a lot more believable that he
unshaven.
Yeah, mucky as.
He had nice hair though.
Yeah, but he was still mucky though. No one can beat the Chewbacca mullet that Sarah rocks in the first film.
Yeah, that is awesome. Yeah,
let's all agree to that.
That's that Olivia Newton-John sweatband physical video.
Yes,
just right on. Yes,
post Xanadu mullet. So yeah, no, Jim, you're absolutely right. I didn't think of that watching this clip. Yeah, everyone is like perfectly like shaven. No one everyone should look absolutely terrible.
Not a blemish.
And we also thought, not only would you eat rats, if you actually disabled and caught a Terminator with flesh on it, you'd take the flesh off the Terminator.
Where did they get fresh drink?
And they'd eat the meat of the Terminators, wouldn't they, as a form of protein?
Ooh, Yeah, I guess you have to cook it till it's pale, right? I mean,
You'd have to. I don't know. Do you think the meat would be clean?
Barbecue
Should be
meat.
occasionally.
Barbecue my Terminator.
Yeah.
Well, I can't remember where we covered it. I think it was in the first movie. It was like, apart from eating rats, you'd get very
It was
bored of that.
placenta and something chips.
That was the name of the episode, but that
Yeah.
we discussed it because we thought if you caught a Terminator, you wouldn't waste the meat, would you?
But it's not meat.
But the biological aspect of the Terminator wrapped on the
How,
endoskeleton.
how deep is that? How deep is that meat? I mean, it's kind of like eating, pork rind. I mean, it's not that thick. It's not.
No.
It's just
If
a
you,
little.
if you ever did it.
And so, okay.
That's it, Terminator pork rind. That's the exact name of the
This is
episode.
probably me being a complete idiot now. But let's say with the original Terminators,
Mm-hmm.
and they were covered with this kind of like skin, is that actually skin? Because I swear it was rubber.
The
So why would you eat
T600
rubber?
Terminator had a rubber skin. The T800, it was the next generation, which is what they kind of allude to in the fourth movie, that they're creating this new breed of Terminators, the T800, which is the Arnold Terminator.
Right. So where are they getting all this skin from?
Well, no, it's the bioflesh generator, and you see that in the teaser trailer of Terminator 2, where the skeleton goes into that machine, the steam comes out, and Arnold pops out the other
And
end of
that's
it.
where the toy comes from.
Exactly, yeah, one of the greatest teasers of all
Jim,
time.
have you
actually.
seen that? There was
No,
a toy
I
that you could
I-
buy. Was it in the 90s?
Yeah, it was like a plastic figure. It'd go into a mold, and
And you'd push this button, and then it would basically fill up, and it would cover the endoskeleton with like.
See, my children were sadly deprived of that. I did not realize.
Oh no! I was deprived of it all.
Daddy Jim, can we have the no?
It's only been in later life that I've been able to actually start buying figures and things like that. It was
Yeah.
quite funny. When I was living in Reigate one time, Ethan had come round to record like a block of episodes.
Podcast.
And Ethan's walked into the room and I'm playing. I've got loads of alien figures and predators, and I was just kind of playing with them. And he was like, "Ellie, you're a 26-year-old woman. What the hell are you doing playing with toys?"
Which is cool, because not many girls collect action figures, so I think that's cool.
That is
I think
awesome.
it's cool.
Definitely. Wow. Well, I have a couple of questions.
Yeah.
Much as this talk of grafting skin on top of metal, that time machine that they have built in that rather large dome with
Yes.
concrete. I don't know what that brings to mind, but the first thing that hit me is, isn't that the middle of the Death Star? Isn't that the thing you're supposed to destroy with an X-wing?
Oh yeah,
flying.
the reactor that Wedge blows up in Return of the Jedi.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I could just see that getting hit, and then the whole ceiling caving in, and.
Oh, you couldn't throw a spanner into that thing. It was like full spin.
Yeah.
You'd be in loads of trouble.
It made me think of Contact.
Actually, Jim, it's something James Cameron actually designed for it's called the tactical time weapon. It's the design is exactly replicated from James Cameron, who designed that to be in Terminator 2, and they didn't have the money or the time to shoot it. So this sequence, I think this is why Cameron likes this film, because they basically remade this scene. I'm not sure about the script, but the actual design of the spinning a time machine that the Arnold Terminator gets in, so to speak, was a design by James Cameron. But because it didn't make it into Terminator 2, they actually reused the design and ripped it off in Contact, if you remember that Jodie Foster movie, the kind of thing that sends you to the other end of the universe. It was the two
Contact,
spinning
that's-
ends.
yeah.
Yeah, well, that outside wall, I can verify that outside wall, if Cameron designed it, he ripped it off from the center entrance of Metro Center's main subway terminal in Washington, D.C. That is exactly what minus the spinning blades.
Okay. Oh, wow.
That concrete, that poured concrete in the background. If you look up any pictures of the D.C. Metro system, the walls and ceilings are all built in that honeycomb pattern, those squares.
Oh, so it's the concrete squares and they're just bolted on, aren't they? I've seen that in, I think Westminster Tube Station in London has that as well.
Yeah, it's very unnerving when you're in. I've never felt comfortable in the DC Metro system, but that's maybe he was trying for that effect, because it really, I was like, oh gosh, it's like.
No, I'm looking at it now. It looks really cool. It's almost. I mean,
Oh wow, yeah.
there's the train station in Total Recall, which is very concrete looking as well. That reminds me of Westminster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, quite a lot of the tubes are like that as well. I remember when I used to like go raving, and you'd be going through the tubes at like God knows what time in the morning, and it looks like that, but it just looked like a huge wall and ceiling of speakers. I was like, oh my god, can you imagine if this is a massive rig? It could be amazing. Party in a tube, amazing.
was going to say, the early sequence, it says here in my notes that where the John Connor and Carl Reese find the time displacement facility is beat for beat identical for the same sequence in the novelization of Terminator 2. So yes, I was right. Written by Randall Frakes, listeners. So there you go. Ellie, do you have any notes to do with this actual clip?
Yes, I do.
Jim's rightly pointed out everyone looks like they've walked out of a Brill Cream commercial.
I just feel like, especially in the opening of this 2 minutes, Jai's massively overacting. It's like,
You're not a fan of this actor, are you?
I hate Jai Courtney. he just got all
He's
this
trying his hardest. Leave him alone.
Yeah, but I've never liked to try hard. It should just be natural. It should just flow. Jai Courtney, he's just got one of those faces that you just want to punch repeatedly.
Although, in his defence, if any listeners have probably seen Suicide Squad, for all its flaws, a lot of people are kind of turning on it, he plays Captain Boomerang in that, and he's really good.
Not as good as Margot Robbie, though.
I think, as I said before in other episodes, he's a bit like... Sam Worthington as well. He was actually, I think, all right in Terminator Salvation.
Yeah, I thought he was pretty good.
He's got a touch of that Prince Joffrey face, doesn't he?
Yes.
I don't know what it is. He just...
Spoiled king from Game of Thrones, who just kills people willy-nilly. Yeah, I don't know. I think Jai Courtney, though, because he's really good in Suicide Squad, I think he's probably a better character actor. So if you put him front and centre, he doesn't know what to do and he's not that great. But I think like Val Kilmer, when Val Kilmer's the leading something...
He's not that great, but when
if
he's...
put him next to the leading man or the leading man's friend or the crazy friend or something, or like when he played Doc Holliday in, like, oh God, Tombstone, he's like a really good actor who kind of brings it and stuff. But
Bring it!
One thing I like about this, they've replicated the 80s look very well. It's got that kind of like cool...
I didn't like the HKs though, and I like the look of the Terminators. I think they've got that pretty good.
But the redesign on the HKs, the hunter-killers, the flying aeroplane things, basically.
They look really CGI, and I think the Terminators look really CGI as well. And also, the head is different. It doesn't look as evil anymore.
They've narrowed it.
The original one looked so much more evil, and I think it's because of the way the brow was shaped, and it kind of had that evil eye kind of stare, whereas now, and also you notice when you see the love the pink lasers, by the way, as they're driving into Skynet, you see the Terminator driving that truck, and its teeth, the teeth are huge.
Oh yeah,
they're literally protruding from its face.
No, well,
and also, they are human teeth.
In answer to that, there's a making of video on YouTube, and they explain they redesigned the Terminator to fit in with the scan of Arnold's body. So they redesigned it to.
I swear Arnold's got a fatter head than that.
No, but I think but to medically fit it into a physical form of Arnold.
Okay.
They kind of narrowed the skull and changed the design. In doing that, though, it lost that mean look. I think the suspension of disbelief, you could have just stuck with the original design.
It looks more kind of robotic as opposed to evil Terminator.
Exactly.
And we are going to just destroy the human race. Which, can I just say, in this day and age, I could kind of understand if like some kind of technical genius body of, say, Skynet was just like, look at these humans, look what they're doing to the Earth. Let's just kill them all.
An electronic god.
Yeah.
Who decided the human race was no more.
Yeah. Humans stink, man.
Have you got any more notes, my dear?
Yes, I do. Oh. I find this whole scene really, really weird. Now, I've only seen this film... Actually, no, we saw it twice. We saw it at the cinema.
You've seen it on home video once.
And I saw it at home. I remember thinking to myself, after I'd seen it the first time, is John Connor a Terminator in the beginning? Because this whole conversation is just weird.
No.
John is really suspicious.
He is. He's acting like he's
going off, like he's going into this dream world. And then Jai asks him, oh, you know,
well, he
what,
looks
what
like
do
he's
you
got an
want to do?
ulterior motive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Agree.
Maybe...
I agree. It comes across like, he's about to betray him. You can tell he's really the bad guy,
Yeah.
Scheming.
Yes.
Yeah. No, you're...
Like the way he looks, the way he answers the question, and he goes, oh, Jai says, oh, so, what do you want to do? I would have thought that would be something you would think about every night before you went to sleep. Your dreams, your aspirations, what am I fighting this war for? And he just goes, oh, I haven't really thought that far. I'm going to have a cold beer, I guess. And I was just like, Jesus Christ.
Who are you?
You're leading these people? But I don't know.
Well, he doesn't become the Terminator jumping ahead, spoilers, until the next, I think, 2 or 3 segments, I believe.
It just struck me as a bit weird. And also, the weird dynamic between these two, it's a bit homosexual, let's be honest. He's just like, I want to use my hands
in a Top Gun way, I
for
think.
different things. they're military men. They're in close confinement.
Maybe he's just giving him the comment. It's like it's very
Haven't
lonely
seen
in
any
the future.
females around.
Well,
you know what happens in prison.
oh my God, Ellie.
It does.
Ellie, sorry, Jim, just to jump ahead, we're going to get you back on if you would love to come on. We'd love to have you. You wanted an Emilia Clarke bit. We've not got to her yet, but...
I do. I love her. I have a personal... my favorite parts of watching movies is hearing Brits do American accents, and she does a really great one. I mean, it's so much fun. When I worked for British Aerospace, that seemed to be a fascination that my coworkers had, that they would try out American accents on me, and they were obsessed with words like Tuesday and quality. They'd say quality. That's a quality product. And,
have you ever heard Ethan's American accent?
No, I don't think so.
I tend to go Southern, though. I tend to go off Southern.
Your Southern is incredible.
But I think that, I've heard Americans say this. When you see British actors go up to America, they always tend to go a bit Southern because it's easier to do than like a regional American accent, like a Boston or a kind of a New York.
That just makes me think of Bill Burr.
No, but by the same take, when Americans do Brits, they're like, "You must be from London, aren't you?"
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
I don't know.
everybody's in
Or
the middle
even
of
can I have a cup of tea, darling? It's always the tea.
In your humble American opinion, Jim, what are the actors you think do good American accents then? Do you think Emilia does a good one?
Emilia does a fantastic one. She comes up, I think you folks listen to more American TV than we watch British shows. So I do think she does a great job with the dialect. She comes across as somebody who grew up in California, and she does a little bit overboard, but based on, you would not know it if you weren't thinking about it. But she does a she.
Do you think if you had no history, perhaps watching her on Game of Thrones, you just saw her cold in this, would you be mistaken that she was American, perhaps, or would you kind of go?
I could wonder why she's talking like that, or I would look up where she came from. It's like, where's that accent from? Because it's not quite California, but she was.
Jim,
yes.
Did you know that Ethan has actually met her?
Wow.
And he no, it gets better. He didn't even know it was her.
Was she using an American accent?
Well, I work for an event company. Basically, they throw parties for like the rich and famous. So basically, we'll go in as bartenders and we'll work in a house. We'll work at.
Bitch, you better work.
Yeah, we'll work at Matt Damon's like party when he's having one in London after a film premiere.
You serve beer to Mick Jagger.
Idris Elba. Emilia Clarke came to the bar. Paul Rudd was there. I think because Paul Rudd and Will Ferrell were there. Name dropping. I was serving them. There was this little, like, unassuming girl there asking for a glass of water, I think, or a soft drink. And I think we only had water at the time. I was like, really? You don't want a drink? She's like, no, yeah. And all the bartenders were kind of taking the piss out of us using English colloquialism. So we gave her a glass of water and she walked up and she went, do you know who that was? That was Daenerys Targaryen. I was like, what? Really?
Khaleesi, don't you want a Coke? Come on.
Yeah.
Get some sugar in your love. But yeah, so Ethan met her and didn't realise.
I think because I wasn't used to seeing her. Oh yeah, lovely, perfectly nice people. And I will say, like, everyone I've met that's famous has always been at these jobs, of course. Even though you're in a role of servitude, they don't kind of... I've never met anyone... Well, not that. I've never met anyone who's not nice. The overly nice, super friendly, like, I went out of their way to be nice, was Mark Strong, of course, the guy from... Oh God, Kingsman and the Green Lantern. He played Sinestro and stuff. He was lovely. Mick Jagger was a bit cold because he went.
You gave him a beer in a
beer
bottle.
place, and I brought it over to him in a glass. And he got a bit funny. Sorry, Mr. Jagger. But that's the only run-in I've had with a possible going wrong moment with a celebrity.
Run-in.
But the Emilia Clarke thing, I guess because we were all used to seeing her at that point with the blonde hair, I just didn't recognise it. This was before I think Terminator.
She must have really enjoyed that because she could probably walk around and not be accosted. Yeah.
And because she's
Whereas Jim, if you'd been there, it'd have been a different story.
Oh my gosh, Khaleesi! Yeah.
Talk to me in American.
Come here. Security.
Wow, but yeah, I would love to come back and chat more about these actors and how they're doing their other things.
No, we'd love to have you on.
Can I say one more thing about
yes,
this?
Ellie, before we wrap up, go on.
I'm really sorry, Jim, because this is going to upset you now.
No, I'm fine.
The photo of Sarah Connor, aka
Oh, the worst
Amelia, is
Photoshop
so
ever.
bad.
Yes.
Oh, it's dreadful. Yes, I agree.
Photos in movies never look good, though. They're worse
It's
than
so
English versions
shit.
of American accents.
And it's trying to be Linda Hamilton. I mean, there's like, would you hold still, move your lip out a little bit more. Now, tighten up the sweatband. Yeah, they're trying so hard to make it exactly like the
Then we
previous
get the
one.
least talented intern at Paramount Pictures to do the first shot.
Yeah, it's just kind of cut out roughly, and it's
like
good enough.
Potato Prince.
Dreadful. Yeah, it's it's a shame. And you know they were trying really hard. I mean, I know it's kind of like looking at John Connor's that breastplate that he's wearing. I know they're trying to make it look like he's wearing body armor, but doesn't it come across as Marty McFly wearing that stove lid on the front? You know, it's just, it's just so wrong. It doesn't look right. It's
John Connor is the fake Clint Eastwood in the Old West.
who are you calling a chicken? Yeah.
Going back to American accents, from listening back to our episodes, I don't know if it's just because I'm not.
We did an accents episode, didn't we?
Oh no. What I'm saying is, when I've listened to podcasts and American podcasts, they always sound really professional. Like these guys know what they're talking about. This sounds legit. And then I listen to me on it. I'm just like, oh my god, who's this kid?
You are the only female co-presenter in a minute show.
But I think it's because we're English, though. I think it just sounds like
we shouldn't really be touching a beloved franchise, American franchise.
No. You guys.
But
Jim,
market.
just listening to you talk, it's just like you could be saying anything. You could
We
be
sound
talking
like we're
about
on a
ice for all I care, but you sound
podcast.
so legit.
Yeah, because most podcasts are American. We're like, wow.
I can tell you, a British accent in America is always looked on with you are completely the authority on whatever you're talking about. You could be yes, you could be talking about Texas barbecue, and it would come across. Oh, she really knows what she's saying. It's fantastic. No, it's just the way we interpret.
She loves that condiment.
Yeah, and you all have the. I'm using y'all because I live in Texas right at the moment, but you have that whole Thames area British sound that comes across as well. They're almost public school sounding. So it's always. In America, that sound is like equated with Henry Higgins that you're talking in a professorial manner.
That's amazing.
Big public schooling sound. Whereas I know we come across sounding like Dick Van Dyke and Mary Poppins.
Step inside.
Hello, governor. Yeah, what? That's not even English. It's funny when you watch his follow-up movie with Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. He just gave up. It's like, no, I'm not even going to.
Oh god, that film was terrible. I remember even as a really young child watching that, just like I'm never going to get that time back.
Actually, I like Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
It was written by
for years.
Yeah, it was written by Ian Fleming. So
I think he had a deal, didn't he? Didn't he have a deal with Lewis Carroll? They went, I'll do a kind of kids thing, and you do an adult kind of thing. I'm sure he did some kind of
it's with
Roald Dahl.
Willy Wonka. He wrote Willy.
That's it.
Ian Fleming wrote the Willy Wonka screenplay, and Roald Dahl wrote the screenplay for Chitty Chitty Bang Bang from the story.
I knew there was some kind of weird friendship trade-off or something, some connection between those two British authors.
When the lead female in that is named Truly Scrumptious, that was kind of a hint. Yeah, that's Ian Fleming. It sounds like an Ian Fleming name. So,
Scrumptious.
Jim, your is it website tvdads.com?
Yes.
What do you do for that? What is it? Is it another show?
It is.
You said you interviewed Dan Aykroyd, didn't you, of Ghostbusters fame?
Back in the days before podcasts, we used to do this thing called typing, and I would type out long interviews that I do with a bunch of different. This was at the dawn of time. This is people use telegraph keys.
Dude.
It was back in the day. It was 1996. I started TV Dads, and there was me, and I think that was about it. That was doing websites. I was a widower with 2 kids, and I watched way too much TV, and I thought I really need to learn how to do this web page stuff. So I thought, well, I'll write a website about single dads who are on TV, and I thought, I'll find about maybe 10, 15 shows. So I wrote down a list and I posted it online, and people started mailing me. I said, what about this? What about that? What about that show? What about that? And I would start adding them, and it came out to I think something like 250 or 300 shows, and they keep making them every year. They make more single dad shows. It's kind of a genre that people don't realize exists. It's like westerns or crime procedurals and stuff. And TV Dads just grew from there. And because it was kind of at the dawn of time, people would hear it if I'd call up and ask for an interview and I'd say I'm from TVDads.com, they thought I said TV Guide, and they thought this is a large US
So
magazine.
yeah.
So they'd give me these interviews, and it was, oh, okay, you can talk to Dan Aykroyd. Okay, you can talk to Stacy Keach.
Mike Hammer, cool.
And they'd go on, and I get all these interviews from people around the world, and
That's awesome.
you watched. I'm sure you watched growing up. You probably watched Holding the Baby.
No, we didn't get that in England, no.
Actually, it was.
We got My Two Dads, I think.
Well, it was Granada Television, 1997.
Granada!
Yeah.
Holding the Baby.
Bloody love Granada. I used to watch Jeremy Brett's Sherlock Holmes on that bad boy.
Yeah, and
That's typically English, isn't it?
yeah. So you watch these shows, and it's even up to nowadays Downton Abbey. If you think of the chauffeur. There's single dads on those shows. And I still get like they'll send me discs of new shows that are coming out with you, and it's like, look, I really don't have any kind of sway in the audience of people wanting to watch shows based on what they see on my website. But it grew to a lot bigger than I thought it would. Like, I'm sure you're finding you're finding more people are listening to your podcast than you ever expected, and it just kind of grows and grows. So and
it kind of freaked me out actually.
Yeah, so I'd say
people are actually listening to what I'm saying.
Yeah, and my advice is enjoy the ride. It doesn't go on forever, but it's interesting times. You meet a lot of new people, and you get to talk about things that you'd never think that you'd talk about, or that you'd never think other people would want to hear you talk about.
Yeah. But you typed it all. That's incredible.
Yeah, so you type to Dan Aykroyd and you get stuff typed back, right? Is that how it worked?
No. I actually sat down with a cassette tape recorder. That's how it was.
Oh, wow.
I sat down with a cassette tape recorder, and I would record him, and I chatted back and forth. And actually, I got him at a press conference and asked him a bunch of questions. He had just had a show canceled on ABC television. And I'd asked him, so what happened? Was it the ratings, or did you not want to do anything with the show? And he jumped up off the podium and goes, let me tell you about this. The guy that was running ABC television, Jamie Tarses, he thought that he was going to control my show. And he went,
oh my God.
He went off like this. And I was like, oh, okay.
I'm just a TV dad. Don't hurt me, Dan Aykroyd.
It's an entertainment show. You don't have to get all,
gay.
Did he get kind of into the paranormal? Because I've seen he did this feature-length talk when he was talking about UFOs and stuff. It's Dan Aykroyd on UFOs. He's kind of very much into that, the paranormal, isn't he, Dan Aykroyd? Obviously.
Yeah. He does that crystal skull business and all that. And he has the vodka.
Wow.
And his wife.
He's gone real far.
His wife, Donna Dixon, is a lovely woman. She was actually I had interviewed him in the small town that I lived in Northern Virginia. And she was from Virginia, and her father was either a beer distributor or a liquor distributor. So that's where Dan got into the vodka business,
the moonshine business.
Yeah, exactly. So I met and chatted with them, and it was just they were having a nice day until I asked them about why did you get fired from your last show. So he was.
So in other words, Ethan, if you ever do a podcast with Dan Aykroyd,
don't mention the show.
Yeah,
don't mention
Ghostbusters
fire.
3. Don't ask about the female Ghostbusters.
Oh, dear.
Oh God, what a rubbish.
So anyway, in wrapping up, Jim, come back on again. I'll find when we get to an Emilia Clarke bit in about a week. I'll ding you back and I'll send you a new clip.
I will be here, and actually, I may be here with my co-host Mark Cerulli, who he has a lot. He lives in Hollywood. He's looking over Universal Studios. He probably has a better view of what's going on.
He's Covert Ops TV as well, isn't? Is
That's
that right?
right.
He's got his own thing. What's that?
He does. He's an independent producer for a bunch of when you watch a DVD, he does the featurettes. Actually, I helped them on. If you ever get a DVD for Halloween, look for the Halloween.
I've got most of the iterations of the Halloween DVDs.
God,
I think that's one of the most repeated DVD special editions they've ever done. I've got the double pack when it's like the TV version, the ABC TV version. I've got the regular version, one with like a hologram.
He's got all the versions, basically.
If you've got a DVD with Halloween written on it, flip it over the back and you'll look at the featurette and it'll say directed by Mark Cerulli. So,
oh, wow.
Nice. We're big fans of John Carpenter.
What's the company you works for then? Because there was one company that used to do a lot of the featurettes, unlike all the old DVDs. Because it's Anchor Bay that did all the initial Halloween DVD releases. Yeah,
he's good. He was like the contractor for that, and he did their work. But he's done work with that. He's done work on the Bond movies. I forget which ones, but he'd be able to tell you a lot more about that. And he worked for HBO. Also, if you watched any Nickelodeon shows, he did.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I used to watch Nickelodeon as a kid.
Okay, if you ever watched Hey Dude or Clarissa Explains It All, he wrote script for them.
Nice.
A couple episodes of those. So he's in and out, and he knows he has interesting connections with things. I think he's going to be on the upcoming Caddyshack show where he did some commercials with Rodney Dangerfield. So he had some Rodney Dangerfield stories.
Nice.
Oh, it's a rough one, I tell you.
Well, it'd be great to like get both of you guys back on.
I will tell you one quick Terminator story. The only Terminator story that I know. It's not about this movie, but about Terminator 2 and Robert Patrick. I had a good friend of mine. His name was Robert Renfro, and we went to film school together. And he tried to get in the film business, but he wound up getting into the accounting for film people business. And he was a bookkeeper for Michael Jackson and a couple of other people out in Hollywood. They were all involved in the same management company. And he used to go and play poker on Wednesday nights or something. And he wound up with these aspiring actors like Lou Diamond Phillips and a couple of others, and Robert Patrick, who had not been in a big movie. And Robert Patrick had just wrapped Terminator 2, and he would talk about it at all these poker games. And the last one that they had was the day before Terminator 2 was about to be released. And so they were out on the back balcony of his little apartment in Van Nuys, and they were looking out over the city as the sun was going down. And Robert Patrick turned to him and said, tomorrow I'm going to be famous. And they both looked at each other and laughed. And that's my only Terminator story. But it was interesting that he was with Robert Patrick the day before really he was famous.
Yeah, literally on the cusp of his fame.
Oh, so the day he was cast as the T-1000, basically. Oh, wow.
Yeah, well, they'd finished the production, but it was about to go into wide release, like the premiere and all that was about to happen. And like he had done interviews and things for the for the things to come.
About to change.
Yeah. But yeah, this was the last time people weren't going to know who he was when he walked into a 7-Eleven. It wasn't going to be Wayne's World, It wasn't going to be people. Yeah. So that's just it's an interesting. When you meet a lot of actors, when you talk to them, they're never quite sure. At least a couple of ones that I've met when I've done my interviews for TV Dads, they're never quite sure if they're famous. They're never quite, am I really famous? Do people really like the shows I'm doing? It's a security.
You can't add Kanye West to that list.
Yeah, the opposite of that. He's
genius.
But Robert Patrick was one of those people. It's like, I wonder what it's going to be like to be famous. And
I can imagine him being like that. Actually, quite humble almost.
Yeah.
We love you, Robert. We do the daily finger
the
wag.
Best T-1000.
Oh yeah,
and
far.
I'm sure they'd be happy to have you on the show. So please call in, write in. These folks they treat you very nice on this show. So.
Oh, bless you.
Well, thank you, Jim. So Jim is the creator and presenter of the Airport Minute, one of the other Minute shows. I will go through all of them because we're all uniting at the moment. Ghostbusters Minute, Jaws Minute, Wrath of Khan Minute, As If, that's the Clueless Minute. Airport Minute, of course, with Jim here. Back to the Future Minute that I was on last week. Wow, we're all connecting. And Goodfellas Minute and Jaws Minute. So we are growing. Jim, where can people find you? Just give a shout out to the peeps. They can find your show and your website and stuff.
You can find us at Airport Minute. Probably the easiest way to do it is go to airportminute.com. We've got a great big website. You can catch up on all the episodes. Also, please, if you're there, buy a copy of Airport from Amazon. We've got a big link on there. We don't get a lot of money from it, but it's a lot easier to understand the show if you've actually seen the movie.
They mentioned it on the Tell 'em Steve Dave, the Kevin Smith's podcast about 2 weeks ago. You can actually buy it on Blue now, I think, in like a 4-pack, I think.
Yeah. It's come out in Blu-ray, and it's just gorgeous. And it wasn't one of those things where they just, they dropped in the nearest print they had, and so you get the scratches and everything in high definition. But this actually came out really good. They've cleaned it up.
See how leathery all the old stars actually were.
Yeah, it's really scary. I mean, the left side of Burt Lancaster's face is like the surface of the moon. It's just really horrifying. Wow. But yeah, thank you again for having me on, and look forward to being on soon.
No, it's a pleasure. When we get to Amelia Clarke in a few episodes' time,
I am
so
there.
The next week, I will get you back on for one of her again. But yeah, Jim, thank you so much. Thank you everyone for listening, of course. Airport Minute, check it out. It's on iTunes. You can find it on Twitter as well, Jim. Is that right? Is it?
That's correct, Airport Minute. And you can also find us on Facebook, Airport Minute. So just keep looking around. We're there.
Like that page, follow them, and of course follow us. And if you would like, we do a Mystery Science Theatre 3K version of the show where our commentary is over the actual clips we are talking about. So thank you all for listening, everyone. We shall return. It's part of the All-Star Week with as many Minute people as we can get on.
I think
Jim,
we should let
you
Jim
wonderful
sign
man.
off.
Jim, sign off. There you go.
Ta-ta for now, and hasta la vista, baby.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Why do I love
shoes. Want a kiss?